Crazy, crazy. Oh boy, what's good, everybody? LL Nation. It's been a long day, man. Malik has been out taking care of business as a coach, and yo, back and forth to the hospital myself. Pops had a procedure. Everything went wonderful. So we appreciate you guys so much, Lucky Lefty Podcast. We are the dynamic duo back in the building.
We here with it.
That's how we get it done. You pulling double duty today, bro.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. A lot of good stuff going on. But it's all about continuing to grow the fan base the right way and the right perspective.
As always, we're brought to you by and featuring Onora Whiskey. OnoraWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey. OnoraWhiskey.com. And of course, if you're going to drink, make sure that you drink responsibly. And you might as well drink because Marcus Freeman does.
Marcus Freeman does.
All I'm saying.
And we got the proof.
If he drinks the whiskey, it's good enough for you. So we talked about the press conference yesterday, and we touched on expectations. And I truly believe if you're going to buy Notre Dame football stock, it's probably a good time to get in right now. It's probably a good time to get in right now. Probably would have been perfect to get in when Brian Kelly took over because the stock was probably at...
It was taking his dip.
Yeah, they're taking his dip. And the price has probably gone up. But where it has the potential to go to over the next 5 years, one can say, you know what? Get in. Get in while you can. Special guest at Notre Dame's practice today, bro.
Oh, yeah?
That's your guess. Yeah, someone was on the sidelines, and they have a relationship with the new defensive coordinator. They have a relationship with the previous defensive coordinator, and they just decided to come up with their three sons and stand on the sideline and watch practice. And then after practice, they had an opportunity to actually speak to the team.
What a tremendous, tremendous university you have here. What a great coach and what a great coaching staff you have. Some of the best players in the country are right here in this group. I don't know when it's going to happen, but with this staff, this team, y'all going to win it all. You're going to pick up the trophy. All right, when it's going to happen, I don't know. I can't tell you that. How bad do you want it? You don't have to wait for it. Why somebody else needs to be better than you? I'll tell you what. Physicality, use it. There's other team spirit. Use it. Okay? Good luck to you guys. Hey, I know you got a lot of things to do. Coach, thanks for letting me talk to this team. I am fired up. I can't wait to see you guys play. I'm going to be pulling for you guys. But remember this. This is your team. This is your brother. You fight for it. Thank you.
Yo, cat Ed Orgeron showed up to practice. You know what stood out to me? Physicality. Use it. Because other teams fear it. Look, man, that's who Notre Dame is going to be.
We better be. Because that's what won the championship the last 5-6 years. It's always been a very, very physical team. Georgia was a very, very physical team. Ohio State, when they won it with Zeke, was a very, very physical team.
Yeah.
Clemson, when they had that 4 All-American defensive players and Isaiah Simmons and all the stuff they got, very, 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 very physical team. Were we physical in them playoff games that we lost? Had nothing to do with no play calls. Were we the most physical team that day? Absolutely not. Trevor Lawrence was the most physical guy that day, and they won.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the edge we need. That's the edge we need.
Lucky Lefty podcast, man. Let's talk about it. Being physical, man. We talked about the DNA of Marcus Freeman and his mentor being Jim Tressel, and how Jim Tressel beat Ohio State into the team that will walk down into the national championship game as a double-digit underdog and upset the alleged most talented team in the history of college football, looking to go back-to-back in the Miami Hurricanes. And it was physicality. Like all that speed, all that talent, you can't win these trenches. You can't get it done in these trenches. I mean, nothing. Ken Dorsey doesn't have time to throw. I don't care how fast Andre Johnson is. I don't care how many NFL running backs you got back there. Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, bring them all on. It's not changing anything. Physicality is going to be the calling card for this Notre Dame team. And Coach O flat out asked him, why not this year? Why not this team? And he sat back, he watched. Another thing he pointed out when he met with the media after he spoke to the team is that he flat out said, like, yo, these dudes, man, these offensive linemen, he's like, yeah, it's the real deal. And we keep trying to, the one thing I want to continue being, because we talked about changing the U's, right? I don't mind being O-line U.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
No, you can keep being O-line U for the next 20 years.
Yeah. I think everybody would be happy with that.
Oh, heck yeah.
And that would always be a key for us to win them 8 or 9 games every year.
You might as well, especially with our schedule. You might as well be the bully.
8 or 9 games is locked in when the O-line's locked in.
Man, easy. This is something else he said when he talked to the media. He said, I walked down the hall and heard an offensive line coach getting after it early in the I told you, dude, if you go to any practice, I swear you could be watching everything on the opposite side of the field. All you will hear is Harry. That's all you're going to hear. You're watching everybody else run drills on the defensive side, and man, Harry would still be ringing out.
You just hearing greatness being made over there.
So one of the great things that was said to me from a prospect or recruit was an interview. The interview actually went up this evening.
On the varsity, Shaun Crawford's podcast?
Say it again.
On the Shaun Crawford podcast?
No. Shout out to Shaun Crawford. We retweeted that and we follow him. So go follow the Varsity House podcast featuring Shaun Crawford. Great first interview with Avery Davis, head coach Marcus Freeman, and I forget who else was in the middle of them.
It's Tagovailoa, Myron.
Yeah, MTA. So, no, I was speaking of, I spoke to the number one offensive tackle in the country, Charles Jagasaw. He came in this Saturday, and we were talking. And he was telling me about watching practice. I said, what stood out the most about practice? Now, remember, he's the number one offensive tackle. He said, man, you know what really stood out to me? I said, what's that? He said, how well the number twos played. I said, what do you mean? He said, yo, the way the number twos played in the scrimmage, that lets me know that they're prepared, which lets me know then whenever my moment comes, I will be prepared. And that, to me, like most people, I had another guy tell me that Jordan Botello had a great day, was flying around. But here's this guy, the number one offensive tackle, and he's telling me that he's impressed by the number twos on the offensive line coming in and being effective. And
That's impressive.
I'm like, yo.
That's the guy we need.
That's the dude. And I'm like, yo, that's that dude, Harry Houston. That's that dude, Harry Houston.
Yeah, that's the thing with Harry Houston. He's not letting the twos and threes be trash because he take it personal. So he want everybody to be good. So he not like you'll do a drill and think he's not paying attention. He's paying attention, and that's what keeps those guys engaged.
So, man, when I heard that and to hear that from an offensive lineman, it's like, man, the fact that was drawn, because, for me, I'm like, you're the number one offensive tackle. I'm thinking he's about to tell me he watched Blake Fisher all day. He's like, nah, man. What jumped out to me is how well the twos play. And he was like, yo, they really move as a unit. He was like, you watch them, like, after practice, like,
they traveling together too, is all the time.
Traveling together all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's a Harry Houston O-line room. That's a Harry Houston O-line room. So that's the one thing that I feel confident that you're walking in the door with on September 3rd.
Then Harry's bringing in Quentin Nelson to talk to the guys. Zach Martin's over there at practice. So when you're an offensive lineman, you're like, man, these are the best guys in the league coming back for Harry.
Yeah.
Like on a spring,
Yeah.
we doing a million other things. So let me lock in real quick. Let Zach Martin talk to me.
Like you said, all of them have been coming back. All of them. Over the spring break. Like, yo, let's get it done. Let's show these kids what it's all about. And that's a fantastic thing to have, man. I mean, how do you think a kid feels on the current roster, or a redshirt freshman, when Quentin Nelson walks through the door? Who, by the way, has Q has a chance to be the best offensive lineman of all time, dude. No, real talk. You know how Aaron Donald, as time went on, was that dominant?
Yeah.
And I don't know what metrics can quantify this down the road, but barring injury, bruh, I watch Indianapolis Colts games and I'm just looking at the dude across from him like, do you have any good film today?
I mean, Q a bad man.
I swear it looks like he's winning every rep.
Q a bad man.
Truman DeMille. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for that. So let's recap, because we didn't finish off anything from yesterday. Well, we got to the first 2 or 3 clips from yesterday, but we have some more stuff to get to. And Marcus Freeman, when he took the job, said he does not want 1s and 2s on his roster. He wants 1As and 1Bs. And so he talked about that, the progress of seeing 1As and 1Bs during the spring.
Yeah, I look at the DB position, right? The safety position. That's a deep group, right? You talk about Houston and DJ and Brandon Joseph and Ramon and Xavier. That group will have a 1A and 1B for sure. And it's something going into the spring you probably didn't know. The D-line is extremely deep, and that's with Jason not practicing, but with Foskey and Justin and Howard Cross has had an unbelievable spring. I mean, an unbelievable spring. And he's done a great job, and Lacey, and I can go on, but I think the depth of our middle, right, up the middle, we're really, really deep, especially defensively, from the D-line to the linebackers to the safeties. Right up the middle, we're deep. We have to continue to develop some young guys. With Cam Cam's out at corner, so we got to develop some young guys at corner. The O-line, I wouldn't say we're 1As and 1Bs yet, but I'm really, really pleased with some of those 1As. And so, again, the running back position would never be. I think up the middle, we're really, really strong, and we have to continue to develop on the edges.
That's interesting. I would have never thought that the defensive line group, to this point, would be considered deep. Now they had the grad transfer, definitely gives depth in numbers. Maybe not elite up top Jordan Davis type talent, but just able to make plays when you have, eventually when Adamiola joins them, Lacey, Cross, Tyson Ford, Onyé. Then you add in Harvard transfer. It's a lot of bodies on the interior of the defensive line. I really never looked at it watching practice as being that deep, but it was interesting to see that Marcus Freeman pointed that out, the depth of the defensive line up the middle. He did not mention the linebackers. He talked about up the middle, but he didn't mention the linebackers. He talked about the back end, the safeties and cornerbacks. Feeling very comfortable with those positions being deep and having 1As and 1Bs. So I was shocked he didn't recognize, like I said, to hear the number one tackle in the nation mention how well the twos played, but yet and still, Marcus Freeman on the same day said he doesn't know if he has 1Bs on the offensive line. Like, he's impressed with the A's in that first unit, but he doesn't know if he has 1Bs on the offensive line yet. And then he mentioned the running back. The running back room might be the most talented room on the roster. It's really debatable.
For sure. It's the deepest room for sure.
Oh, it's definitely the deepest room. And Jabron Payne, he's supposed to commit this weekend, sometime this weekend. He might commit to Notre Dame, class of 2022. So it might get even deeper.
And it's interesting to see how they're continuing to get these commits and these recruits, because the room is building up. And it must be told through the recruiting message to the back again is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, bro.
Oh, shit. I'm going to come back in.
I want to make sure the people hear you. So he'll join us in a second. But yeah, Ashley Hill, our brother, thank you for that. We appreciate you. But yeah, going up the middle, linebacker, Bo Bauer, Collie, most of the Ziegler, most of the freshmen. Ziegler's been the standout of the freshman class. Jalen Sneed just hasn't hit the weight room. He's really, really thin when you see him in person. You got Jordan Botello, who had a great week of practice. Marcus Lufau. Those two guys just have to stay on the field, man. Like, they haven't been available. When they've played, they've been really good. They're being really good. But availability, right? The best ability is availability. And we need Jordan Botello and Marcus Lufau to both be available this upcoming season. So that was interesting. He pointed out being strong up the middle, but you like to hear that. You definitely like to hear that as a football team. Quarterback competition, something that everybody wants to discuss, talk about. How is Drew Pine looking? How is Tyler Buckner looking? Well, our head coach told us about that and gave us thoughts on the progression leading into the blue and gold game.
Really, really pleased today. The only way to win the jersey scrimmage is takeaways. Only way. And so up until the second to last series, the offense didn't turn the ball over one time, and then we end up having a pick late in the scrimmage. But by that time, the offense was way ahead. So I was really, really pleased with the work that they did today of taking care of the ball, making good decisions. It's a great competition, especially between Tyler and Drew. It is, and it's one that probably after this Jersey scrimmage, I'll sit down with Tommy and kind of say, hey, give me your grades. Let's talk about where you see these two, and it's still going to be an evolving process in terms of until you name a starter. But I wouldn't hesitate to put either two in the game because they're both really, really good football players and they can help us win. And so I look forward to sitting down with Coach Reese and kind of really just looking at it from the quarterback's point of view from, hey, did they make the right decision and then did they execute? And so it's been really good.
The cool thing is I really think Marcus Freeman wants to know his starter at the end of spring. And he wants to have a guy going into the fall camp. He talks about the competition being very well. I've only seen 3 practices up close and personal. Tyler Buckner's the better quarterback, or at least he's been in the practices that I've attended. So I do believe that Drew Pine is competing and pushing him. I believe that wholeheartedly. But Tyler Buckner just has the physical skills. Tyler Buckner has the athleticism, and he has the intangibles in the running game and to create plays when the plays break down that I'm not sure Drew Pine has. And ultimately, in my opinion, that's going to be the difference in this competition. Unless, for some unseen reason, Tyler Buckner just takes like multiple steps back over the next 2 weeks and early into fall camp. Don't see that happening. Don't expect it to happen. And I expect Tyler Buckner to be the guy at the end of this spring. Heck, Steve Angeli's probably going to end up being the MVP of the blue and gold game, right? That's the way it always works. You have this third string quarterback, third string running back, wide receiver that makes all the plays, has 2 touchdowns, start a blue and gold game, and then it's like what? So by the way, and I said this before, Angeli moves a lot better than I thought he did. That's the crazy thing. Yo, who's this pain don't mean nothing person, man? What's going on in the chat, guys? What's the argument? When I see stuff like that, I'm like, yo, I have to figure out what's going on. You guys are arguing with one another. I see my boy Donnie Cruz. Donnie Cruz, what's up? Hey, stay safe up there, Donnie. Stay safe in New York for me, man. Prayers goes out to everyone that for that tragedy in the subway. And yeah, it's just horrible. But he said if they move Burnham to Viper, then like what they have at the other linebacker spots, some guys must have stepped up. Well, Burnham's an extremely athletic kid. I mean, talking about a kid that plays safety, linebacker, and wide receiver his senior year for his team, and a little bit of quarterback. So that's an extremely athletic kid, and that's probably the main reason he got moved to Viper. Because the kid is a beast. Probably the quickest way to get him on the field as well. Irish, I was hoping Spindler would be ready to go. He may be a next year guy. Rocco in person is just inconsistent, right? This is why, oh man. Let me calm down before I go on a rant. This is why 62 was such a waste. 62 was a waste. Because those are snaps that Rocco Spindler could have had that's experience that Rocco Spindler could have had. And I'm here to tell you, Rocco Spindler could have done the exact same thing that 62 did from a production standpoint. So that's the crazy thing about that. But he's inconsistent. He's been inconsistent. And I thought he was going to be a little bit more athletic, but he might end up being just a brawler on the inside. That he might just be that type. And we'll see. We'll see what Harry can do with him, how he can develop throughout the rest of the summer going into fall camp. Yeah, that's a lot going on in the chat. Jared Patterson is actually doing very well. Marcus Freeman talked about him, said he's coming along very well, and he'll be back fall camp. That's the cool thing about the offensive line and hearing that the one group is doing well, because that lets you know once Jared comes back, Zeke Carrell has had a really good spring, so he'll be added depth. And then the offensive line takes another step forward because you're talking about a guy that's a first-round pick, second-round pick at the latest, coming back to your offensive line. So he's doing well. I don't know, Brian. I see you in the chat. You said that 62 had some it's a good question. He might be eligible for an extra year because of that. He might just be. That's a good question. I have to find out because I'm not sure if the bowl game qualifies for the same as just one regular season game, and it might. But you might be onto something. He still might have that extra year of eligibility left. Royal Fingers, appreciate you. Thank you for those thoughts. I don't know what happened to Malik. His signal was bad. He's trying to reconnect. Wow, that's crazy. We're actually calling people bust and they haven't even made it to college. That's wild. Shaun, I don't think so. Right? Ed Orgeron tried to hire Marcus Freeman when Notre Dame eventually hired him. So there was a previous relationship. He also was with Al Golden in Miami before he went to USC, if I'm not mistaken. So he has friends on the staff. He did say he was going to be in South Bend for at least 3 weeks. I think he said he's going to be there for the next 3 weeks. So he's staying through the blue and gold game. And he said he wanted to show his 3 sons the campus and allow them to watch practice. So that's why he came, the friendships, his sons, just to give them the opportunity to watch and see what Notre Dame are all about. Oh, I see what you're saying. Joe Long, Zeke Carrell, and Josh Lugg. I wouldn't call Josh Lugg a bust. A bust is somebody, Kane Matt, 62 is like bust level. And Josh Lugg is, I don't know if Josh Lugg lived up to what your expectations or somebody else's expectations might have been, but that doesn't make him a bust, at least in my opinion. Yeah, I knew that rule, but I just don't know. Sometimes they count the bowl game differently. You know, if you come back, as a matter of fact, there's a young lady for Notre Dame basketball who they ruled her ineligible this year. I forget the young lady's name, because she came back at the end of the year and played in some games, even though it wasn't equal to the games. I think it was like the ACC conference tournament games or something like that. And they counted that as making her ineligible. And that's why I said I wanted to check and see how the postseason played into that. And I think that was somebody in the Ivy and the crew expected. Any silent commits, ABCDF. If I did, I wouldn't say it because it would no longer be silent. So what's the point of, saying it if they're a silent commit? Let's see. Ty B and No Cap dudes be acting crazy over Dante Moore. Calm the fellas down. It's been hella tense. I mean, what's the worry over Dante Moore? I mean, all you have to do is read the tea leaves, right? Michigan State got their guy. Clemson got their guy. He's not going to Ohio State. He's not going to Miami. I'm like, who are you really scared of? Who is there to be scared of? At this point in time, now I will say this. When you see Rosina committing, when you see Nico committing, like programs have their guy in place to be able to attract other offensive players. That right there is something that, if he indeed chooses Notre Dame, you would like to see him in place to be able to attract other talent. But that's the only complaint. I don't have a complaint about him taking visits. I don't. I said this. I think we talked about it in our Carnell Tate interview, or maybe this is something we discussed offline after the interview was over. Just understanding what a visit to a school equals when it comes to social media presence. So let's say Dante Moore visits Clemson. And I'm just throwing it out there because he's not visiting Clemson. He's going to pick up anywhere between, because I think I was really hyperbolic the other day when I said this. Realistically, he could pick up between 10 to 15,000 followers off of a visit, because college football fan bases are, man, crazy right now. This is the season where everybody goes nutso. All fan bases, just trying to figure out who's going to commit, who are we talking to. Then you add the 24 classes getting ready to come in for visits and taking junior day visits and official visits and getting ready to go into the fall. And you start talking about them. This is just when everything is chaos, right? Getting ready to enter into a dead period. And then the contact period would start, I think, end of May, early June. So it's just a crazy time for fan bases. And we get it. And we understand. But as far as, really fretting over something that Dante Moore is doing, I don't think we're at that point yet. At this point, my dream is still alive, guys, because I told you that my dream is for him to walk out of the tunnel on April 23rd in a uniform. And that would be the commitment. So, man, I'm hoping that still happens. I'm hoping that still happens. Joe Long, yeah. I mean, heck, Joe Wilkins is injured. We got Tobias Merriweather coming in. Deion Colsey was injured at the beginning of spring. Avery Davis is coming back from his ACL. There's definitely talent there. But the previous recruiting classes over the last 2 years, yeah, it's a little show, especially with some of the transfers out. Jordan Johnson being one of those. Man, it's tough. It's tough. Man, you guys are talking about Sam Young. Man, everybody thought Sam Young was going to be that dude when he got to Notre Dame. So let's get back to, we talked about the 1A and 1Bs. We talked about the quarterbacks. I talked to Rod Oden, who is the head coach of Harper Woods High School in Harper Woods, Michigan, and he's the father of 2024 safety, cornerback, wide receiver Jacob Oden, who's a 4-star composite out of Harper Woods. That's right outside of Detroit. He came in with his son for a visit, and he was watching practice, and the first thing he told me after practice on Saturday was, man, I love the new defensive coordinator. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and just give you guys a snippet, because articles up on Irish Breakdown about the visit, but I can give you a snippet of what we discussed and what he said. I said, man, what specifically did you like about Al Golden? He said, I loved his use of multiple fronts on defense. The defense is player friendly, bases out of zone coverage, which allows defenders to make more plays on the ball, interceptions, pressures, defensive blitzes, multiple players from all over the field, including DBs. Sound, fundamental football, player friendly, that gives your players, your talented players, opportunities to make more plays. I like hearing that from a coach who was very intent on watching Al Golden and the way he operated during practice. I think I pointed out to you guys the entire time that I was there for the 3 practices, Al Golden, all he talked about was communication. He kept stressing from the behind the defense, communicate, talk, communicate. So that's something to think about as well. This is like the 3rd or 4th coach that's mentioned Al Golden that's either bringing recruits in or brought their coaching staff in as part of a coaching clinic, or a coach that was actually there with their son on a recruiting trip. This is like the 3rd or 4th time that Al Golden has been talked about. And with that being said, Marcus Freeman told reporters just how important Al Golden has been to him in his transition and becoming the head coach.
I'll start with me. I mean, he's been great. That's one of the main reasons we hired him, because not the main reason, but a big reason why we hired him was because he's been in my shoes, and he's been a guy that sees things from a head coach point of view. There's been many times he's come into my office and said, hey, just something to be aware of, something, hey, that I did when I was head coach. And it's something that it's been very beneficial for me being a first-time head coach. On the team, he's been great. I sit in a lot of his defensive unit meetings, and just to learn, just to hear him teach, and he's a great motivator. He's super intelligent. Our players, I'll tell you, they've learned a lot of ball. And, it's funny, we were having practice the other day, and Coach Reese was like, hey, are our linebackers, like, really intelligent? It's like this everywhere? And I'm like, no, they just are learning things that I didn't teach them last year. They're learning situations, they're learning alignments and stuff. I mean, Coach Golden is extremely intelligent, has coached a lot of ball, and he's doing a great job.
So he went on to talk about not only how important Al Golden has been to him, but what it's like to sit in on a meeting when Al Golden is talking to the defense. Check this out. Pretty impressive stuff.
And so it's about, bam, setting the tempo, setting the mode. Like, hey, it's meeting time, right? And however you want to do that as a coach, okay? Here's the things I want to get across by words or It could be we want to teach how do we want to defend a screen. That was one of his meetings the other day. Okay, let's set the tempo. Let's set the mode of this meeting. Let's then set the agenda. We're going to talk about how to defend screens. Show them examples from practice, and then show them good and bad examples, and show them good and bad examples, or really good examples from the NFL. And so it's all a method, and it's been really good to see from my chair, just taking notes and being like, hey man, those are great points, and to see how it's implemented, man, has been really good.
I told you guys, from watching practice, it's all about TTC. Every practice has been TTC. What is that? Teaching, tempo, and competition. Every single practice has been about tempo, teaching, and competition. And Marcus Freeman right there is giving you a sneak peek into the room when Al Golden meets with the defensive side of the ball. I think it was the next to last practice I went to where they were working on zone coverages and how to pass off receivers against bunch formations, spread formations, and when motion comes into the boundary or when motion comes into the field. And they were specifically working on that. And they ran about 15 to 20 plays specifically about that. And that, to me, I'm like, yo, this is clearly something that they know they're going to see a lot of because Ohio State does a lot of this. Bunch formations, quick screens to get the ball there, and Jigba Smith, their wide receivers in space. So there's prep going on like right now in April for Ohio State, like right now. Now, there's a bigger picture to that because in the grand scheme of things in college football, of course, there are a lot of teams that run spread, those concepts, getting the ball out to the receivers in space. But Ohio State does it especially well, especially with the RPOs. And they focused on that on the offensive side of the ball, which is improving the screen game because the screen game to the wide receivers has been less than stellar for like the last 6 to 7 years. Screen game to the running backs, it's been pretty good, especially when you had a good offensive line. But the swing passes and the quick screens to the wide receivers definitely could have been better. So they worked on that offensively, but situationally, they worked on how to defend that from a zone, recognition, passing off receivers. Man, just a fantastic job of teaching that was going on during that session on both sides of the ball. And I love the way Al Golden was right there the whole time. And he's not talking over his coaches because he's allowing his coaches to teach. So Coach O'Leary and Mike Mickens were right there on the sideline, pulling guys, teaching, instructing. But Al Golden was the main voice. He was the main voice each and every play, saying communicate, focus, play hard, play physical. You have to love it. You have to love it. And you love the benefit of having a guy like that on the staff for a first-time head coach like Marcus Freeman. So basically, I just want to reiterate and play once again, Marcus Freeman. We covered it a little bit yesterday, but this is what he had to say about his football team as they get ready to take the field on April 23rd for the blue and gold game.
Well, what we'll do is we'll evaluate, hey, what situational football do we need to really, really get on film? I know we don't have enough third down plays on film from practice. We need to focus on some more third down. But I'll get with the coordinators and we'll really sit down and say, okay, hey, what situations do you need on your side of the ball, offensively and defensively, into the game situations that we need to make sure we get on film so that we can teach and coach from it. We're gonna have to. I wasn't pleased with the way we kicked today. We missed a couple field goals, so I want to put those guys in a little bit more competitive situations. But other than that, we'll evaluate as a staff, and again, we'll end with the spring game.
Man, I want to get to what he just said, but I guess a woman, there is the play-in game taking place between the Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves up in Minneapolis right now, and a woman came onto the floor at the Target Center and tried to glue herself to the floor. That's crazy. She tried to glue herself to the floor to protest and stop the game. Fortunately, they got her off the floor and the game continued. But that's wild. I just had to talk about that. But just Coach Freeman talking about how pleased he is with the team. I think he mentioned that there was a practice where he wasn't pleased with the practice and how important it was to make sure that he told the squad, yo, that was a bad practice on that particular day, and we can't have that. We can't have that. Not here in Notre Dame. And, I love hearing that from a first-time head coach that understands what Notre Dame is. And when you establish that attitude and a spirit of competition, just as a team, of recognizing when you haven't met the standard on the practice field of excellence and the golden standard that's being set, when you don't reach that bar on the practice field, then it's not enough. So now you develop an attitude that leads to that consistently showing up on Saturdays. And you don't have to worry about these lulls and coming out flat like we've seen a lot of times from the previous regime in big games. We're trying to solve that in practice. And you love to hear that, especially as a fan base that has been on the losing end of most big games recently, especially bowl games. You're tired of your team coming out flat, right? They didn't come out flat against Oklahoma State. They just had the inability to make the plays in the second half to finish the game off. Here's that clip I was talking about. So you guys that weren't with us yesterday, you can watch it. This is him talking about practice and explaining to his team there's no place for average practice at Notre Dame.
I'm a routine guy, right? And so I like to just script them all out and just say, let's every day have the same routine. But then you have a practice like Tuesday. I wasn't happy with the way we practiced Tuesday. Thought we got the work in, but we got through it. And so when you get through things, you say, okay, how can we change something up to make sure we get their attention? So Thursday was a little bit different. We started off with a competitive opener. We put O-line versus D-line one-on-ones, and then we did wideouts versus corners one-on-one, and then we had some coaches catching punts, and it's just we had to change it up. And sometimes to me, it's you set your routine, but you got to be able to gauge, like, what does this team need? Tuesday wasn't a great practice, so I'm going to go challenge them on Thursday, right? I'm going to get in front of the room. I'm going to challenge them and tell them we can't have an average practice. But also in my head, it's going to be like, okay, how can you slightly change things up so it's something new to them?
Freeman is building something special at SB. Yes, sir. Thank you, my guy Connor Nepper, for tapping in as always. I see a super chat. Chris Baker, we appreciate you. Who would you predict the plan B being for quarterback? Is Jalen Snead living up to the hype yet? Feels like Ed O is an ND fan. First question, the backup is Drew Pine. I think it's pretty clear that most people want Tyler Buckner to win the job. He gives you more ways to win football games. And I believe most people want him to win the job. So plan B would be Drew Pine. And Drew Pine is a competent backup. He's a competent college backup that if he had to play due to injury and he had to start a game, you feel pretty comfortable with him being behind that offensive line and being surrounded by talented receivers and a hell of a group at running back. You feel comfortable about that. So Notre Dame is in a good spot. They're in a good spot. Jalen Snead, as I said before, Jalen Snead might not even be 200 pounds. And if he is, he's barely over 200. So until he gets weight on him, he won't be making that much of an impact on Saturdays, shall I say. You could definitely see him on special teams, though. Man, y'all talking about rib tips from Frankie's? What's good? Man, it's too late for that, but that sounds good too. Yes, Sid Irish. Backup is the key word. Yo, where you at, Will? Triple A coming? Somebody on the way to get you? Flat tires are the worst, man. Flat tires, they come at the most inopportune times. All the time. It's the most inopportune time. You guys get off Drew Pine, man. Drew Pine's a good dude. Heck of a recruiter, too, from most people I talk to. Recruits really like that dude. He's a go-to. He's a go-to. Jamie McNeil, thank you. Appreciate you just trying to keep you guys in the loop, get the information to you. That's what we do. We spin it different. Brian P., thank you for tapping in on the coaches talking about and preparing for the Ohio State game now. Not talking about it, but yes, when you're focusing on situational football, it has a benefit that covers the grand scheme of things or the big picture. But definitely, if you're working on bunch formations and most of the things that you're going to see against Ohio State in spring practice, there's some Ohio State prep going on. They probably won't admit to it, but yeah, you're working on certain things. Good point, Connor. You know, if Michigan did indeed beat them, which they did, Notre Dame 100% can go in battle. And not only the Michigan game, follow that up with the first half of the Utah game in the Rose Bowl. I mean, if you can line up and be physical with Ohio State, you can make some hay. And you can keep that offense off the field and frustrate them and make them go a little bit faster than they might want to and possibly get a couple of turnovers. And Utah had them right where they wanted them. And then injuries hit the defensive backfield. They were already down 2 starters coming to the game. Then they lost 2 more guys in the defensive backfield. And with the receiving core that Ohio State has, when you start going to like third-string defensive backs, it's a wrap. And that's why Ohio State started to score at a really fast clip to get back in that game in the third quarter in the second half. And once the ball got rolling, there was nothing they could do. Yo, what's the best breakfast spot? Malik and I want to know that. What's the best breakfast spot in South Bend? You guys, please let us know. Byron McIntyre, we appreciate you, my brother. What's good with it? Go Irish. What's the best breakfast spot? My girl D. Beezy, I see you. I appreciate you, sis. Jenny's. Okay. I'll have to check Jenny's out. Bob's Diner. Anything that says diner usually is good. And they usually stay open late and have really good pie. Like anytime I think about diner, that's what I think about. Great food, pie, all of that. Tosh is, and I think that's what Marcus Freeman was talking about, where he doesn't know if he has 1A and 1Bs on the offensive line yet. Tosh is one of those guys that you expect to take that next step. And really, I think with certain guys, Harry is kind of like breaking them down to build them back up, getting rid of habits that weren't good habits, and now trying to reestablish them in spring ball. And when you're trying to do that, you get inconsistency because those old habits are hard to die, right? They're hard to break. And that's what you're going through when you see Taj Baker. Like, he's trying to get to a place where he's not thinking so much, and he might be playing a little bit slow and being inconsistent in certain reps, but eventually he'll get there. He's a talented kid. He'll get there. I wouldn't worry about him. And I think DBZ, DBZ, man, you got a new soror. That's what's up. Man, that was a happy call for your boy. I was really proud of my baby girl, man. Shout out to all the DSTs. Sunrise Cafe, I heard about that one. Barnaby's, okay. I saw Shaun Crawford is actually still on campus. He's still on campus. He's been at practice. He's been very present at practices, and he's still on campus. I think he's doing grad work on campus, and he started his podcast today. Yo, hey man, I'm trying to tell you, the red velvet pancakes are awesome. My spot up here in the Chicago area, and then the spot that I share with Drake Bowen that we both go to, Avgo in Northwest Indiana. Fantastic carrot cake pancakes. Fantastic. Oh, much love. Appreciate that, sis. Will do. Absolutely. So, in closing, man, we just want to say and hope that you feel that Notre Dame is on the rise. We played the clip with Ed Orgeron and what he believes and how he believes in the physicality of this year's team. And this is why you should buy stock in Notre Dame football right now. Like, hop on right now, because this team is going to be physical. They're going to be able to dominate the trenches. They have depth at the running back position. And as Marcus Freeman said, they're really strong up the middle, which bodes well for most college football teams that end up going to the college football playoff. The sky is the limit. It really is. And I believe, just like Ed Orgeron said it, when we talked about expectations from yesterday, 2 college football playoff appearances, a title, at minimum over the next 5 years. That's something I truly believe. And heck, why not? As Ed Orgeron said, why not us? It's our time. It's indeed our time, Notre Dame fans. So enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. All right? So, as always, featuring and brought to you by Onora Whiskey at OnoraWhiskey.com, the premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. You know what time it is.
Petticoat, petticoat, petticoat junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Hey, pettiest stories of the day. So, you guys be the judge of this and let me know if this is petty. Young man, Little League, this past weekend. Check it out.
Look around, stay low, make sure they don't see.
the gritty around third base and then to the dugout. Was that too much? Was he petty? You guys think he was petty? Should I put him on a petty train? I mean, dude, I thought that gritty around third was mean. I personally thought it was mean. I love seeing that in baseball. I love seeing young people being able to express themselves. I don't think it was disrespectful. He wasn't trying to show up the picture. He was celebrating with his teammates. I think that's extremely dope, man. What do you guys think? See a lot of you guys saying no, no, no. Yeah, I really don't think that it was I just don't think it was petty like that, man. I also had a video that I want to show you guys. Here it is right here. You guys, this is going to be special for you. This is Tyronn Lue, last home game, crypto, special guest doing the halftime show. They were preparing for the halftime show, and him being from the rural areas surrounding St. Louis and Missouri, he had a connection to this particular artist. Check Tyronn Lue out, and then you let me know, or I'll ask you when we come back.
Hey, daddy, yo, look at that girl right there. She makes me say, do what you. I like the way you do that right there. Switch it and switch it for you. I like the way you do that right there. When you listen, when you're talking, that make me shut down. I like the way you look at me on that.
So Tyronn Lue, being from Missouri, showing love to Chingy as he was doing the halftime show for the Clippers, last home game of the season. Who would be the one person that you would come out from the back like Tyronn Lue or like McPherson doing the halftime show to watch the halftime show? Who's the one artist that could be out in front of your building at work that you would literally walk out of work, just forget what you have to do, walk out of work and come watch them perform on the street? Who would it be? Who would it be? For me, it definitely, if Tribe Called Quest was in the middle of the street, it would be a problem. Look, I'm going to tell you now, because, RP Fife Dog, but if the entire group was still living and it was the blue and gold game, and someone came into the press box and said Tribe Called Quest was out on Edie Street performing, yeah, I'm probably bouncing. It's like that. It really is like that. I see Redman and Rep. Yanni, okay, that's what's up. Rio, the young OG. All right. Usher, the Temptations. Okay. Prince. All right. Hove, Throw Up the Rock. I feel you, Donnie Cruz. All of those are great candidates, man. I love it. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for tapping in with us as always. Brought to you by and featuring Onora Whiskey. Mobb Deep for sure. Shook Ones. But definitely get me out the building. Lilo Galante, appreciate you. Jay Chillin, Michael Jackson. OnoraWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey. OnoraWhiskey.com. Terry Washburn, I see you with the young Elvis. Tendai, that Machiavelli before games. That's what's up. Shaun Paulus. What's up, Shaun? Outcast. Okay, Will. Underground dude named Avi. I'm going to have to check him out. Oh, Philip Wright, the teacher. Okay, the teacher had one of the best verses as well. I enjoyed that verses. Okay, you're talking like he has bars. Okay. Pitbull? Man, that's the only person I've heard so far that I might. Chris, come on, Chris. Pitbull? Really? Donnie Cruz, man, we appreciate you so much. God tell Malik to get off that cricket. You know, y'all, we love y'all so much, man. LL Nation is the best. Daddy Yankee, I can rock with. Pitbull, I'm not a big Pitbull fan, but I do rock with Daddy Yankee. So, man, we'll see you guys tomorrow with another edition of Lucky Lefty Podcast. It's late, so your day is almost over. Go enjoy the rest of this playing game. And when you wake up tomorrow, make sure that you spend it different. Hit that like button. Smash it for us. Let everybody know. Lucky Lefty Podcast.